Hello everyone, Doug here from Verus Engineering, and today you join me stood underneath a 2019 Honda Civic Type R, an FK8, and I'm going to walk you through how to install our rear diffuser. So these are the components that we're going to be installing. We have one outer side of the diffuser, and then again on the other side we have the center part of the diffuser, and we have two strakes which go in between the two. We have some mounting brackets here, and we have some suspension covers here. So first things first, we're going to be installing this suspension cover here. So what we need to do is crack off these bolts, or remove the lower bolt entirely and crack off the upper bolt for both sides, because there's one for either side of the anti-roll bar, the rear anti-roll bar. It takes a 12mm socket. So we don't need to undo the top one fully, we only need to have it loose enough so that we're able to slide this behind there, and then we're just going to tighten it back up again. At this point I'd probably recommend leaving most of these nuts and bolts that we'll be installing loose, because then we'll be able to finely tune where our diffuser sits. But then once we're happy with the placement, then it's simply just a case of tightening everything up. Now, after we've installed our suspension covers, we are going to install the mid mounts. So it's easy to remember which side is which. They are sided. The vertical upright goes on the outer edge, and then the smooth sections face rearwards. So we're going to remove this 10mm bolt, and then we're going to replace it with our M6 by 20mm long bolt with a 25mm washer. Using a H4 Allen key, we take the washer and the bolt and place it through the mount like so, and then we can start it by hand. Now that we have this hand tight, we're just going to tighten it using our ratchet. And with that done, we'll do the exact same and repeat it on the other side. Now, with our diffuser assembled or pre-assembled on the floor, we are going to mount our final mounting bracket. So you just want to get a flathead screwdriver and unclip this securing clip for the rear bumper. There we go. And then we're going to take our one of our remaining M6 by 20mm bolts, our 18mm washer and a serrated nut, and we're just going to install it here, and we're going to tighten that up. And then with that side done, we're going to repeat the same on the other side. Okay, so now we are going to pre-assemble the diffuser before offering it up to the car, because it will give us more rigidity and it will be a lot easier to install. So we have 6 M6 by 16mm long bolts and 6 M6 by 18mm washers and 6 M6 serrated nuts. So we're just going to, if we feed it from the center section outwards, we're going to feed it as so. We want the straight edge of the diffuser strake to be level with the straight edges of the center section and the outer section. And then we just go around and install a nut and a bolt into each of these mounting holes. So I'm sure what you can see here, you can see that I have a transmission jack under the center of the diffuser here. You can use a trolley jack. Ideally you can have someone hold it for you very briefly while you're just fitting it for the first time. And then I've got one nut and bolt just through this corner on the mid mount here, which is just holding it in place, and then that gives me the ability to fit all the other nuts and bolts for fitting the diffuser without having to get into any awkward situations where I'm holding the diffuser an awkward way. So we provide a variety of different size spaces here so that you can fit the diffuser at different heights depending on lots of factors, how high you personally want it. We generally recommend to get it as high as possible because that's where we have the most efficiency. But if you have an aftermarket exhaust that's particularly big, you could completely remove this center section and just have the side parts, or you can drop it down. So it's entirely up to you, but we do recommend trying to get it as high up as possible. So having said that, I am going to place my serrated nut up here and get one of the 16mm long M6 bolts and poke it through and get it started. So having said that, I'm going to start off by getting trying with no spacer. I'm going to fit one of our M6 by 16mm bolts through here, and if I can be nice and delicate, I can get the nut started on it. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat the same on the other side, and basically I'm going to try and fit with as few spacers as possible to get the highest efficiency. So this is how the diffuser looks, or the rear section of the diffuser looks, with no spacers installed. So we still have a decent gap here between the diffuser and the exhaust, and we're not hitting underneath either. On these outer ones, on these inner ones here, I used a 45mm long bolt. I just found that was easier to get my hand in there and the nut on top with a 45 rather than just the 16mm bolt, but if you can do it, then fair play to you. And it's just important to remember, in fact, I'll give you a better angle, but this section here is fabric, which means you can easily push your hand up and over and get your fingers on the nuts and the bolts on this side of the diffuser, which really helps when it comes to fitting it in place. So just to give you a better angle here, I can put my hand up here and over, and right there I'm on the outer nut, and then a little bit further in I'm on the inner nut. So that really helps when installing this diffuser. And now what we have to do is install the M16, the remaining M16 or M6 by 16 nuts and bolts into these holes here, which connects the suspension covers to the rear diffuser, and then really that is it. And then the third and final one, put through here. Okay, now with that in place, you just need to go around and tighten everything down just to make sure that everything's tightened correctly, and then we're going to torque the bolts for the rear sway bar that we removed and loosened earlier. So let's just do the nuts and bolts for the diffuser first. So because they're serrated nuts that we used, I don't have to get a spanner on there as long as they're already touching. So I'm just going to go around and tighten, there we go, that's a great example, and tighten down. This one needs a bit of tightening. Tighten down each nut and bolt. You'll often find that as you tighten one, the others in the same section at least will get loose, so that's when you'll have to just get your fingers up there and just basically put any contact on it which is going to stop it from spinning round. And now we just need to torque these bolts for the rear sway bar to 28 foot-pounds. So make sure both the upper and lower bolts, because we have cracked both off, of torque to 28 foot-pounds. And then just repeat for the other side, and then that is it. Okay, so with that, we can conclude our installation video for the diffuser on the Civic Type R. Not too difficult, I wouldn't say. Some tricky nuts and bolts to get onto at times, but we've designed it in a way that should be pretty manageable. So if you've got to this point and you've been doing it as watching the video as you go along, then congratulations for installing your diffuser. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us at sales@verus-engineering.com, and we'll see you in the next one.